Hi, wine friends. It's Joanne Close from the Wine Educate podcast, where we explore WSET education, study tips, and practical advice for the wine enthusiasts and professionals. This is episode 11. What is BLIC and how to use it? All right, good old BLIC. So today we're going to discuss the WSET framework for evaluating wine quality and readiness for drinking. So BLIC is another fun acronym we got going on here. If the SAT, the standard approach to tasting, is your North Star, then perhaps BLIC is your compass. We have another tool here to help you assess your wine, and BLIC specifically is going to be evaluating the quality and the level of readiness for drinking for the wine. Okay, when does this BLIC come into play? It is not used in level 1. So perhaps if you haven't started level 1 yet and you say, Joanne, I already have enough on my plate. Well, okay, put a pin in this one and maybe revisit this episode before you start level 2, because BLIC is introduced in level 2 and continues on for level 3. And because you're tested on your 2 wines in level 3, you do actively use BLIC in order to come to the conclusion of quality and readiness for drinking for level 3. So what is it? BLIC is an acronym used in the WSET standard approach for tasting to assess a wine's quality and readiness for drinking. It was introduced as a way to provide a structured way to make objective judgments about wine quality. What it stands for, the B in BLIC is balance, the L is length, the I is intensity and or identifiable characteristics. I know you might be scratching your head a little bit at this point, more on this later, okay? And then the C is complexity. And it is important for you to know how to use BLIC, but when you use it in class, you're calibrating your palate with your instructor. I can't stress that enough. I hope this podcast is useful to you in helping you understand some of these concepts. But when it comes to actual practice and classroom time, your teacher, your in-class teacher is your guide, okay? It is not a scientific tool, right? But it is an effective tool to use in conjunction with tasting with your teacher. Breaking it down, so let's start with balance. The definition of balance refers to how the components of a wine, sweetness, acidity, tannin, alcohol, and body, work together. And for me, balance is one of those things that if a wine is balanced, you don't really notice it because everything's working together and it's great. But if a wine is out of balance, then you really notice that. What are examples of this? Okay, if you have a sweet wine, lots of residual sugar, you better hope that that wine has a ton of acidity in it to balance it out. If you get a sweet wine without all that acidity, the wine will seem cloying, overly sweet, and out of balance. If you have a wine that is heavily oaked, spent quite a bit of time in an oak barrel, that wine really needs to have a lot of fruit concentration to support that oak usage, okay? You see where I'm going with balance a little bit here. Balance is the foundation of a good quality wine, okay? In class, I'm really not going to give you a wine that's out of balance. You're not going to learn from that. I'm going to give you wines that you're going to learn from. But you know, in the world, out in the wild, you're going to find wines that are not balanced. So important to know what that means and how a wine should be balanced. Length. All right. Length. Definition. The persistence of multiple pleasant flavors after swallowing or spitting the wine. If a wine has a short finish, well, indicates a lower quality wine. If it has a long finish, it suggests a higher quality wine. This again is really a practice thing. I will give you an example. So high quality Bordeaux with a long evolving finish of black fruit, oak, spice, many things going on. The flavors stay on the palate for a long time versus maybe a simple Joven from Rioja, just maybe short finish, disappears pretty quickly. I will say that the multiple pleasant flavors part of finish is pretty important. If you get a wine that maybe is really heavily oaked, and after you finish the wine, you're like, well, there's the vanilla. Oh, the vanilla's still there, still tasting the vanilla. Okay, that's one thing, right? That's just one thing. So maybe that's not, well, definitely that's not a long finish. But if you get, oh, vanilla, oh, the yellow apple, oh, the chamomile tea, oh, okay, then it's a long finish if it keeps going and going. Also, say you had a wine, sadly it was a bit faulty, and you have a long finish of mouse droppings and rubber gloves. That's not pleasant. That's not a long finish. Okay. Intensity. All right. This is a bit of a sticky wicket. I like to stick to the book and the book lingo as much as I can, as closely as I can. But intensity is something that has danced around with a little bit. And in other aspects, besides the textbook, there has been a tightening up of the language. And I am going to address that in the podcast today because I think it's helpful. So in the straight up book, it mentions just the intensity, but we're also saying intensity and or identifiable, well-defined characteristics. Okay? You can have a wine, like I keep talking about it, but it's such a good example. New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, pronounced intensity. Okay? Lots is happening, jumping out at the glass. So that is an example of straight up intensity. But just because the wine is not jumping out of the glass and slapping you in the face doesn't mean it's not a well-defined wine. What do I mean by that? Let's give you an example. So a pronounced Syrah, let's say Shiraz, our Barossa Shiraz, with pepper. Well, no, pepper would be Northern Rhone. Okay, let's stick to Northern Rhone. Pepper, blackberry notes, nice pronounced flavors. But then you might have a Pinot Noir from Burgundy, Bourgogne, with red fruit, more earth undertones. They aren't perhaps jumping out at you, but they are well-defined and identifiable. So you would give it a tick on the box for BLIC, okay? Again, this is practice with your teacher category. I'm just introducing the topic. Complexity. Oh, it's so nice when you get that fun, complex wine. Refers to the range of flavors and aromas in a wine. So we have wines that have primary flavors, secondary flavors, tertiary flavors. We have things called clusters. Don't think I've covered all those yet. That's to come. Clusters refer to the different categories of aromas. So say citrus, a citrus cluster, and within that you'd have grapefruit and lemon and lime and things like that. If you get a wine that has aromas and flavors that fit into many of those buckets, those cluster buckets, you might be thinking, perhaps I'm veering upon a complex wine. If you get a wine that is showing primary characteristics, secondary, meaning resulting from winemaking techniques like oak aging, malolactic, lee stirring, and then perhaps you get some tertiary signs of age. Does a wine need to have all these things to be complex? No. A wine could just have primary and still be complex. However, they're indications of complexity. Again, calibrate with your teacher. However, I will give you a fun tip about complexity. If I get a wine and I feel like every time I go back in with the old nose to give it a sniff, I find something new or something that was maybe less of a note before is now showing up more, I think this is a complex wine. It's really evolving in the glass. It's opening up. It's showing all of its interesting aromas and flavors. Example, a young New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, the trend continues, may have intense primary flavors, but limited complexity compared to, say, an aged Gran Reserva Rioja, right? With layers of primary, secondary, and tertiary characteristics. All right, now that we've covered the acronym, how is BLIC used to evaluate quality and readiness for drinking? All right, so the wines are, first of all, you do your standard approach to tasting, right? You've got your note, and then you write down your acronym, BLIC. And next to each one, you can maybe draw a little box for checking, or you don't have to get that fancy, but make sure you write down your BLIC, and then based on how well the wines demonstrate on BLIC will reflect on their quality. Okay, what are various qualities that are available to us? Well, faulty and poor, oh boy, acceptable, good, very good, or outstanding. If your wine doesn't show any of the qualities on BLIC, meaning no love, no ticks, okay, your wine is in the faulty or poor category. If you get 1 out of 4, it's acceptable. 2 out of 4, good. 3 out of 4, very good. Home run, 4 out of 4, outstanding. Cue the Gap Back song, the Gap Band song. If you know that, what I'm talking about, you're welcome. Now I've got the song stuck in your head. Okay, so an outstanding wine will then show balance, a long finish, pronounced intensity and or clearly identifiable characteristics, and complexity. All right. In my class, I'm speaking specifically for the classes taught at Wine Educate. I'm not going to give you poor and faulty or even really acceptable wines, okay? You are not going to learn about wine by kissing frogs all day. It's just not going to be helpful. So within class, the majority of the wines are going to fall between good, very good, and outstanding. Well, and outside in the wide world of wine, yes, of course, you will find wines that fall into all of these categories. So in class, you're really going to need to decide between length and complexity because most of the wines will be balanced and will have intensity and or identifiable characteristics. So it's length and complexity that you're going to need to really decide between. Our different categories of readiness for drinking. So now that you have assessed the wine according to BLIC and ticked in the boxes and gotten the quality, what categories do we have? So I'm looking at the level 3 categories. Too young, can drink now but has potential for aging. Drink now, not suitable for aging or further aging. Too old. Should I be so lucky to get wines in New Orleans that are too old? That's like when your uncle has that cellar of really old Bordeaux and goes shuffling around and pulls out, like in my dreams, right? Love that. Anyway, so to that point, most of the wines are going to fall in the category of can drink now but has potential for aging, or drink now, not suitable for aging or further aging. As a general guide, anything that's good or below is probably going to fall into the bucket of drink now, not suitable for aging or further aging. And things that fall into very good or outstanding are going to be more leaning towards can drink now but has potential for aging. You said, please give us an example. Here we go. A youthful Beaujolais Nouveau is going to be balanced, going to have identifiable characteristics of raspberry, red cherry, maybe some bubblegum. It won't have any length or complexity, but we don't expect it from that wine. And you know what? It still makes it delicious. It's good. And it is best enjoyed immediately. So drink now, not suitable for aging. Okay? On the other side of the spectrum, say I gave you a premium 2008 Barolo, you're welcome. You would say, Joanne, it is balanced and it has identifiable characteristics. It probably has intensity as well, long finish, and complexity. And the wine would be outstanding, home run, all 4 boxes. Now then, 2008 Barolo in the world of wine, it has a ways to go. So we would say drink now, but has potential for aging. Okay? I know it's kind of a lot. I thought the BLIC episode would be a short one, but it's not. And I could have even gone deeper on it, but I'm not going to. Because as I've said many times, you've got to do this in class and you've got to do this with your instructor. Okay? So, how does BLIC fit into the SAT framework? It ensures that students approach wine evaluation with objectivity and consistency. Consistency is the key. Reinforces critical thinking skills. How well does the wine meet expectations for its style, origin, and price point? So fun to do this blind and then match up the price points later. Oh, I hope you enjoy this introduction to BLIC. And I have a feeling it's opened up more questions than I've answered. I'm in New Orleans. Twice a year, I offer a level 3 tasting workshop in person here. It's an all-day level 3 tasting workshop. If you take level 3 with us online, this workshop is included, and I offer it the day before your exam. So you can come into town, spend the night in a hotel. Remember, not at a friend's house. That couch will not be comfortable. You need your sleep. And you can take the workshop and then take the exam. But if you live locally and just want to see what it's all about, you don't have to be a level 3 student to take this workshop. Anyone can sign up, and it's a fun day. So check out wineeducate.com to see when that next one is posted. And also, if you have not done so already, sign up for the newsletter. I'm going to start releasing things in the newsletter that I don't put anywhere else. And I'm often going to release classes there first and the wine trips. It's going to be my main hub for releasing information on upcoming wine trips. Okay, everybody? All right. As always, you can email me with your questions, Joanne, Joanne, at wineeducate.com. And next week, we're going to do a fun exercise. I'm going to take the same wine and I'm going to do an SAT tasting note for the wine for level 1, level 2, and level 3, so I can show how it grows, the SAT grows in complexity. Okay? Great. Have a great week. See you next time.